What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts. So be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. My neighbor keeps parking in my driveway, and when I confronted him, he said, "Prove it's yours." This is the most bizarre neighbor dispute I've ever been in. I, 35 male, bought my house 3 years ago. It's a corner lot with a long driveway that can fit 2 cars. My neighbor, Jim, 50-something male, lives in the house next to mine with a much shorter driveway that barely fits 1 car. About 6 months ago, Jim started occasionally parking his second car, an old pickup truck, at the end of my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake or maybe an emergency, so I didn't say anything. But it's become a regular thing. I'll come home from work and his truck is blocking my driveway, so I can't park. I've had to park on the street multiple times, which is annoying because street parking is limited in our neighborhood. Last week, I finally went over to talk to him about it. I was polite, just explained that I needed to use my own driveway and asked if he could park somewhere else. His response? "Prove it's your driveway." I was so confused I just stood there for a minute. Then I said, "Because it's my house?" and pointed to my house number. He goes, "The driveway extends past your property line." I checked. That part is public space. This is completely insane. I showed him my property survey and deed, but he insists that the last 10 feet of my driveway is somehow public property and he has every right to park there. Now he's parking there even more often, like he's making a point. Yesterday he left a note on my windshield that said, "Check your facts." What is happening? How do I deal with this person? The simple answer on how to deal with this OP is to tow it. He asked you to prove it's your driveway, so prove it by towing his car, and continue to tow it if he continues parking there. There's really no reason to entertain this nonsense at all. Karen told me to turn off my hotspot because she said I was stealing the signal. I was sitting in Starbucks working on my laptop using my own phone's hotspot. Karen at the next table kept looking over and sighing dramatically. Eventually she walked up and said, "Can you turn that off? You're stealing all the signal. That's why the Wi-Fi is slow." I told her I'm not even using their Wi-Fi. I'm on my personal data. She goes, "Doesn't matter, it's all connected." Then she went to the barista to complain and he literally said, "Ma'am, she's using her own internet." Then she called me rude and left without her drink. And this comment says, "Reminds me of when I was hanging out at my mom's house when I was younger and she came home and I was like, 'Our Wi-Fi's down.' And she was like, 'The Wi-Fi is slow at work too. Maybe it's connected.' And I was like, 'They're 2 different ISPs. Why would they be related?' And she said, 'Well, sometimes hackers get into the main hub of the internet and tie up all the lines.' And I said, 'Okay then,' and waited until she left again and rebooted the router. The hackers apparently gave up at that point and let us have the internet again. Landlord advertises all of our company's equipment for sale to our competitors. Best follow our eviction to the letter. I work for a leisure company. Think soft play, indoor soccer, laser tag. Can't be specific. Prior to the lockdowns during COVID, managers and the big bosses were negotiating the renewal of the lease on one of our parks. Things were going mostly smoothly, however, the landlords were difficult to contact. Then 2020's crap hit the fan. All of our sites were closed, and everything was thrown into a mess. Negotiations began to slip down the priority list. Nobody thought the landlord would push an eviction for an expired lease during this period, especially with it still getting rent, despite the site's closure and the closure of every business and restaurant in the immediate area. We were wrong. We received a letter saying we had 7 days to leave the premises and to take everything with us. We are reminded that anything left in the building after 7 days will become the landlord's property. That line is very important. Now, a lot of construction goes into installing our equipment into a new building, which makes emptying one even harder. Add a lockdown with no staff and most businesses shut, it meant that saving much of our assets would prove to be extremely difficult. To lose a profitable site and all of its assets is definitely a blow to our company. But here's where it gets worse. A few days into our 7-day eviction, we find out that the landlord has been advertising our park to our competitors. But he isn't offering just the building. He is offering all of our stuff pre-installed. Ready to go, just needs rebranding. The landlord has evicted us from the property in an attempt to increase rent and make a solid profit from our equipment installed because he thinks we won't be able to empty the park. We were furious. And here's where the malicious compliance came in. We were told we had 7 days to move everything we owned out of the property. So that's what we did. Local businesses from all around offered up free space to store our things. A few people came back out of lockdown and they all spent the rest of the week removing, selling, or destroying everything that was related to us. We didn't even leave the light fittings. In every other site vacation we have seen, we always ended up leaving thousands of dollars worth of disco lights in the ceilings because they're too hard to get. We leave most of the construction in, as well as things like the bars and kitchens that all stay intact, recognizable as what they once were. But not this building. We ripped up the flooring we installed, tore down the walls that were not part of the original structure, wooden walls to divide up the space, ripped apart our manager's offices and removed all artwork and lockers. The landlord now has every new deal he has been making dead in the water, a large renovation bill to install new flooring, etc., or a company willing to do it themselves like we were. Lockdown has been extended another 4 weeks, so he has at least another 4 weeks without rent we were paying, and won't have any potential buyers. Silver lining, the assets we got out of the site, fridges, TVs, equipment, food, tables, have all been sold, and the lack of rent and additional income has helped the business and paid staff wages. Here's what happened next. We handed in the keys and it was probably the quickest handover we've ever had. The landlord clearly didn't want to make any kind of conversation and there was definitely an elephant in the room, but he definitely said nothing about the lack of our equipment. Complications did arise when we went to get back various deposits, but he had no case to withhold the deposits from us as the building was in excellent shape. We had conducted much of the maintenance work ourselves, so the building was in a significantly better condition than we found it. We also cleaned up 99% of the rubbish and dirt from our demolition crusade, so he couldn't bill us for cleaning. A very minor bit of pressing from our legal team meant we received everything we owed back in full. Following through with my word and reporting my disabled brother to adult services as abandoned after my parents tried to leave him with me. My brother Terry is nonverbal and, according to a specialist, has the intellectual/mental capacity of a very young child. Terry can still be very difficult to look after. He will experience meltdowns if something makes him uncomfortable, such as a food texture he does not like, or will throw fits if he cannot have his way. Terry has broken holes in the walls during his meltdowns/fits, and I'm honestly afraid of him whenever he becomes destructive that way, because he is larger/stronger than me. I had been parentified by the time I was about 13, because my parents expected me to handle Terry's needs whenever they were busy or needed a break, which was often. I have been upfront with my parents that I still hold resentment towards them because of this, and that Terry should not have been my responsibility to the extent they made him. My parents insist their parenting was perfect and are unwilling to alter their viewpoint. I have told them that I am not going to be Terry's caregiver and to not leave him with me. Unfortunately, my parents know where I live. Recently, my parents have begun ringing my doorbell telling me to watch Terry, and then leaving before I can say anything back. Then I'd have to cancel my plans and wait on the porch with Terry until they came back. When they came back, I told them all 4 times to stop doing this, but was ignored every time. I was forced to call out of work for the most recent drop-off incident. I lost my temper with my mother when she came to pick Terry up, and told her that if she or my father try to leave Terry with me even one more time, I will call Adult Protective Services and report Terry as abandoned. A few days later, my mother again dropped Terry off on my porch and took off. So I followed through with my word and called to report Terry as an abandoned disabled adult. I waited with him on the porch until a social worker came. My parents exploded on me, calling me a horrible daughter and sister. They said they were barely able to get Terry back, and accused me of only caring about myself and wanting Terry to be neglected in a public group home. I snapped at them that Terry would probably be better off in a public group home, because they're the ones neglecting him for their own convenience, and that I'm not going to keep putting my life on pause for their own personal comfort anymore. Now people, mostly friends of my parents who I barely even knew or remembered before, are bombarding me with messages calling me selfish. A few have approached me in public to tell me that I don't give a crap about my brother, and that I'm ungrateful for all the sacrifices that my parents made for me and Terry. I've already changed my phone number, but it's getting so bad that I am considering applying for a job transfer and moving. Update. Hello everyone. I'm not sure if anyone is still reading this post, but I wanted to give a brief update in case anyone is still interested. I applied for the job transfer and was approved. I will be completely moved to my new city in a few weeks. I have only told a few close friends so they could help me move discreetly. I have not told my parents that I am moving or my new address. And my friends know to either not tell them or give them an imaginary address. I wanted to thank everyone for your kind words and support. I have zero intention of paying this debt. Former roommate fell out with me after I required them to actually pay rent and take care of themselves, and apparently their grand revenge plan was to give my phone number to all the creditors they've defaulted to. This means I get calls nearly every day asking for former roommate from different banks and lenders. It's annoying as hell, and they don't seem to understand that I neither know nor could care less where the person they're looking for is. So I've started responding with the line in the title when they ask for the former roommate. I've checked and locked down my credit. The culprit here isn't bright enough for identity theft, and if they were, this would be a legal case and not a Reddit post. I don't say anything except, I have zero intention of paying this debt, which is true because it is not my debt, and occasionally following up with, you may have to sue to get that money, which is also true as far as I'm aware. And then I hang up. Sure showed me, bud. Showed me you've defaulted on multiple lines of credit and are now running like hell from them. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. Take care, friends, and I'll see you next time.